I am unashamed. What about you?
So I made biscuits. You know, I do breakfast on Sunday mornings now since we do virtual gatherings. And so we do the same thing. We take the Lord's Supper, but I make a big breakfast, you know.
And then you and I have a debate during my own sermon. Because that last Sunday, like I threw you under the bus.
Oh, I threw you under the bus.
I know.
First.
And then they're telling me what you're saying. This is all happening in real time.
Al makes some comment about he was Kay's favorite, you know, coming up and all. He kind of went down and I was the worst, you know, all this stuff. So I
Well, I said, let's all guess who's the favorite. We all know Jase is not the favorite. I mean, everybody can agree on that. So we got a good laugh. And then so I gave Jase.
Al's tried, you know, because we have a common bond between the brothers. You can use each other as illustrations for humor purposes. And so Al, he's just throwing me under the bus. But everybody's watching. I have to explain this to Phil because he has no idea what I'm talking about. He doesn't know what we're talking about, yeah. No. So you can go to, there's a company called Facebook. And
he does know about Facebook because that's old Zuckerberg.
It's Facebook.
Yeah. I don't know why they call it Facebook. It should be Spacebook because it's your space. But anyway. So
they had a thing
or the wall. It should be, you know, face wall maybe or profile wall. But anyway, so we're all watching it there, and it's weird because you're talking to each other. So Al's throwing me on the bus. Everybody's laughing. So I typed in public service announcement. Only listen to Al. I think I put only take Al seriously when he is quoting scripture. Exclamation point. But, you know, then you can see people like it, you know, and they use the emojis, you know, with the.
So they're having these conversations virtually online. The church is, because they're all watching it at the same time and interacting with each other while we're doing it. It's really been a strange phenomenon, this whole thing. I mean, you and Mom are.
I actually got that line from one of my buddies who said boldly, he said, I've noticed something about you. I was like, what's that? He said, I only listen to you if you have a duck call in your hand or a Bible. And at first I started to say thank you, and then I thought, what are you trying to say here, buddy?
That was a sting.
Well, in this case, Jason and I argued last night, and you know, the family got together for some get-together, and I said, you and Jase are arguing. I said, y'all been doing that for a long time.
Oh, I know.
He said, yeah, Jase said that you said you have a free flight.
They're still going back to
vacation.
You're going to like
we've
this.
Been arguing about
I said,
that
I don't
flight.
go around. I said, there's no such thing as a free flight. I don't know where you got that.
First of all, Phil
We're revisiting this whole flight. That was like just back during duck season.
Look, Kay and I got into it last night.
On Mother's Day.
Well, look.
Phil said it was a free flight. I said, no, Phil knows better than that. You pay big bucks to fly around.
So here's what I did for her. Look, she hadn't got her Mother's Day card. As soon as we finish this podcast, we're going down there eating shrimp for Mother's Day, even though it's the day after.
Well, you can make up with your mother, Jay.
Oh, no, here's what I did. I got her a card, and I said, a great mother is more valuable than money. Stop fussing. And I have 10 $100 bills. $1,000.
Oh, that's
in the car.
You're giving it to her?
Yeah.
That'll do it.
You're fixing to see it.
That will do it. She said, oh, Jase, I'm so sorry for what.
Oh, I know. I thought
Jase will be her favorite today.
Money talks and everybody else shoots a roost.
Why was she not get off this argument? So I told Missy the other day, she's like, what? I was like, oh, yeah, I'm trying to make a point here. So it's costing me $1,000, but.
Well, Willie gave you what he gave you on the podcast, $2,500.
I want to be there and see that.
Well, you're fixing to see it.
I want to see it.
32 minutes.
Your troubles are fixing to end, partner.
So I'm making breakfast, and I realize that I'm out of jelly, which to me, the way I was raised, I didn't really understand why. And this is almost like an intervention for you, Phil. But I felt hollow. It's like everything I've just
Is it
created.
your intervention or mine?
It's yours. It went from me to you because I realized that I'm a victim of the way I was
He's
raised.
blaming you.
Run out of jelly?
So yeah. So watch.
Do you ever run out of jelly?
That does not happen around my house.
No. So here's why. This is no embellishment. I'm gonna tell you just what happened. I ate the breakfast, and
no embellishment.
the first question is, "Where's the jelly?" I'm like, "Yep, I'm out." So I come down here the other day, run the nets, and I told Phil, I was like, "Hey, I need some jelly, And he's like, "Yeah." So Phil, he leads me out of his house. We go to their little kitchen, Well, we open this closet, and it reminded me, because I didn't even know this existed. It reminded me of like a wine cellar.
It was a jelly cellar.
There's hundreds of jars of jelly. And look, they're all dated. And I'm like, I'm out of jelly? They have enough jelly for 100 years for a village of people. And here's what's funny. He said, now what kind were you looking for? I said, well, I'd like some slow. And he said, well, here. Now he picked up, that's 2018. Then he started telling me where he got the slow berries. And I was like, this is like a wine cellar. So I got 2018. Everything had dates and a story. And so I took 2 slows and 1 Mayhaw, which seemed kind of small compared to what I'm looking at. But he was giving it to me like it was gold bars.
It is gold bars.
And
There's a lot of people wanting to get into that particular cupboard.
I mean, Phil, I didn't know that by age you had escalated to this level of jelly
Jase,
hoarding.
This is a good lesson for you. When you have a pandemic, just remember, always have plenty of jelly. The reason is it makes the world a little sweeter.
Well,
even when there's a pandemic.
So this story's not over. So we leave. I have the 3 jars of jelly. I put them in the refrigerator. So Missy wants to go to the plantation for the weekend. That's what we've been doing because she has to get out of the house.
By the way, how was the slow jelly in Mayo?
It was fantastic. I mean, it's better than anything. I mean, it would make, like, if you went and bought some jelly at a grocery store, it would literally make you gag.
Yeah, it ruins it.
To try to eat it. And so we go out to the plantation. We had her parents there because we hadn't seen them in 2 months since the quarantine. And they reached a point to where they said, we'd rather die than not see our family.
That's funny you said that because Jay's grandmother, she's like 91.
Yeah.
Same deal. They were just like holed up the whole time. And so they came over yesterday for our little Mother's Day celebration. And I said, well, they walked in and I was like, well, I mean, are we hugging or what are we doing?
I thought the same thing.
And look, she said, I started hugging yesterday. I just decided life wasn't worth living without a hug.
We've reached the bottom of quarantine.
Yeah.
I mean, because you know how Missy's parents, they're rule followers. I have not laid eyes on them. They hadn't even sent many texts because I think they were thinking,
what if, maybe.
Jase, I haven't been to a town of any kind in 2.5 months.
There you go.
So whatever the people here today are getting out of me, you say this information coming out of me only comes in little bitty spurts.
Yeah.
I'm under... Of course, I've always been about halfway locked down, but I mean,
yeah.
I'm just saying.
You're a pioneer of social distancing.
Well, this was just a good excuse to say, pandemic.
So anyway, I get up that morning. I mean, we sat around the fire, and by the way, Mia brought a friend. She's 16 years old. Well, I noticed when we were sitting around the fire, and I had just met this girl, and she had a, what do you call those things? Ukulele. And I said, you want to sing us a song? I was kidding. She said, yeah, I'll sing you one. So I thought, well, okay.
Entertainment.
Look, this girl opened her mouth, and I was, to say, shocked and impressed at the same time. This girl was born to sing. And so when she finished, she did a version of Reckless Love, but it was like she just made her own version of it. And I said, how did this happen? Because I was thinking, do you sing at church? She said, nope. And when I asked her that, she told me about her conversion story. She's like, I really wasn't raised in church, but she said, I came to Jesus 2 years ago, and I really love worship songs, And I was like, well, where did you get that song? She's like, well, I just did it. I saw it, and the ukulele is the only thing I've learned how to play. But I was so impressed. I said, well, I would like to be your agent. You told Missy, I said, I told me, I said, that girl's welcome at all times. Bring her, because she's got. So one of these days, I'll introduce this girl to you in some capacity, because I'm telling you, it was in my top 10 of most shocking things
really
I've ever seen a human being do. And I said, have you ever sang in front of people? And she said, no. But I thought, what kind of person, because I'm kind of intimidating looking. And she didn't know us. And she sang that song with as much heart and passion as anything I've ever seen. It was impressive that
she just the performance.
And I kept trying to figure out where did she get this, and I couldn't figure it out. And so finally I just deducted. I said, I want to tell you something. I said, because I've tried to figure out how you're able to do this, and the only conclusion that I have is that God made you to sing. And I would like to be here with you.
The birth of Jabal, he was the father of those who live in tents and raise livestock. His brother's name was Jubal. He was the father. Here's the little girl's father. He was the father of all who play the harp or the flute. She's got a ukulele, same thing, stringed instrument. She is a descendant of Jubal.
A daughter of Jubal.
I'm glad we cleared that up. So the next morning I cooked breakfast. Look. Missy makes the biscuits. It's fun. We're all because we were doing Sunday morning from the plantation, and so the biscuits are ready. I look and I was like, "Where's the jelly?" And she said, "Oh, I forgot the jelly." Well, in that
the jelly you got down here out of the jelly cellar.
The whole story about being out of jelly. Now we're going to the plantation. We're cooking biscuits. It's going to be the greatest.
The jelly.
I realized in that moment right then, I thought, this is all ruined. It has all, because I thought,
it's
35 minutes back to the house.
I was going to say, it's 35 minutes.
I actually said, I can be back here in 70 minutes. And she was like, what? I said, well, I noticed something, which I probably shouldn't have said this story, because now I'm mad, because I'm like, you were in charge of bringing the ingredients to
out of jelly,
and we're out of jelly.
Is this back to the intervention about blaming now?
I said I went down to Phil's secret bunker and made the deal to get the jelly, and now you didn't bring it. And I said, look, when we go.
So now we're having a Mother's Day fight. So
ladies and gentlemen, never on Mother's Day do you ever forget the jelly.
I said, look, let me tell you something. I said, when we're in a duck blind, because we eat biscuits in the duck blind.
Oh, yeah.
I said, I have seen this happen many times. I'm telling her this, which I shouldn't have. I'm apologizing right now. I said, when someone forgets the jelly, I said, I said, Phil will go back. And I was like, well, he sends someone back for the jelly.
Yeah.
And I said, guess what? If you forget the biscuits, nobody goes back. They don't go back for the biscuits. But if you have the biscuits, they go back for the jelly. We're eating the biscuit so we can get to the jelly. It's not vice versa.
I would like to do a survey, and the survey, ladies and gentlemen, out of all of you who are listening out there in computer land, how many of you are still making homemade jelly from the fruit picked off the land?
Less than 1%.
So the people are listening to this, they say, what's all
less
this
than
deal?
0.01%.
They've never tasted homemade jelly, and they don't know how to make it. And
Phil, you got the jelly. I'm with you, and I realize I have a problem of overvaluing jelly, because I really was mad. I was like, you ruined the whole trip. You forgot the jelly.
Yeah. Jase, here's a thought that might not have ever crossed your mind. Why don't you and the little yuppie girl you're married to, why don't you learn how to make jelly, dude? Learn how to make it. Look, you say, I learned how from my mother.
Because it takes all day. I mean,
Well, that's a workhouse.
Which is why it's so protected, right? Let's take a quick break. So I hear from a lot of you that are now trying what we've been telling you about, Black Rifle coffee,
they've been happy about our recommendation.
Oh, they have been. It's wonderful. I mean,
what's there not to like? You got good coffee.
Yeah.
The people who are doing it have served our country.
Retired military, yeah.
I mean, it's a win-win.
Yeah, these guys, it's a veteran-owned company. They're very supportive of law enforcement, first responders. I mean, the same thing all of us are being supportive of. So not only are they good folks, but obviously they have a great product too, which we love. So I want to encourage you guys to check these guys out, blackriflecoffee.com. We're a part of the Black Rifle Coffee Club, which you get coffee once a month. And, our particular favorite is Murdered Out. They got a lot of really good names, cool names I like with the AK and all this stuff. They got some new ones, espresso with cream, espresso mocha. So that's some pretty cool stuff there. They also have a buy a bag, give a bag, which they're donating to medical workers and first responders during the pandemic. So just everything about this company is fantastic. We love them. blackriflecoffee.com/Phil. And that's going to get, if you use that discount code Phil, that's going to give you 20% off your first order on any of the products, and that includes the coffee club. So you want to check these guys out, blackriflecoffee.com/Phil. Use Phil, save you some money, and enjoy some really good coffee. So another thing came out of the live stream, Jase, that I thought was really cool was you're talking about songs. So because it's funny because Missy does the worship, she and some other people, but basically in charge of putting it together. And so, obviously when you're all together on Sunday, they get up and we sing all together. Well, everything now has been done through the computer. So I don't know what they're doing or what they did. And so I'm like,
well, we're running out of ideas.
Well, right. So they got these things.
Al, it looks like you were laughing so hard the tears were streaming down your face.
This is the jelly cellar.
I didn't know the jelly tail would bring you to tears.
Well,
I didn't realize we were that hooked on jelly.
I think Al is not. I don't think he was shedding. I think he was crying because anybody who forgets the jelly. Al started crying over what that story you told.
Well, it was a painful moment.
It was tears of joy.
And look, I didn't finish. I ate that biscuit without jelly, and guess what?
Threw it up.
No, I didn't throw it up. I ate it, but the biscuit was fine. But
he literally vomited.
Thumbs down and.
Well, I mean, the experience, I realized then that I'm eating that biscuit as good as they are. They're homemade biscuits.
Oh, yeah.
Without the jelly, no. I don't eat biscuits without jelly, ever.
Two things are interesting there. One is that Jase fought with his wife and his mom on Mother's Day.
That's true.
Which tells you something's going on. But what I was going to say about the music was that two things happened, which you hadn't seen it yet, Dad. Y'all will watch it later today. Is that first of all, there's this song called Awesome God, which is a great song. It's one we've been singing for years. And our Uncle Gordon does like the lead part on it.
Yeah.
And so
it's a riff kind of.
It's kind of a riff. And he always mistimes it, and it's funny, because he always messes up, but he's so good at it, and it's almost just like you appreciate it. So it was such a great thing for the church, because that was all the comments, that all of a sudden they're singing online, and all of a sudden here Gordon pops in.
Yeah, because we do it have squares. And look, what's funny about it is Perky, who's kind of our guy that arranges the stuff, and Missy, he starts off singing, then Missy pops up, she's singing like a harmony part. Well, then Perky pops up again, because now he's singing another harmony part. There's 4-part harmony. Then Missy pops up. Well, then Gordon pops up singing the lead. And look, that was one take. They did all that, which we never. Most people I think, oh, they've been working for hours. No, they literally sang the part, sang the part. Gordon sang the part. It was really slapped it together. I mean, it's not 100% flawless, which I think makes it cool.
I now know, Al, that when I made the comment that when I keep a cupboard full of jelly, we still have some fruit to go. Some pears, dewberries. And on to the slows. They're slow because they don't get ripe. I said it made the world a little sweeter. I didn't realize forgetting it would curtail.
Look, I hate to make this morbid thought.
Even your personality, your emotional.
We're back on the jelly, but look, we're gonna get to John 6 about fish and bread, and I was gonna make the point that I look at bread in a weird way. because I need that jelly. And
it's a pretty good leap, though, the Jesus being the bread of life,
Oh, yeah.
But look, listen to me. You have more jelly than you will be able to consume. So look, when we get into the will and all that, just put one blurb at the end. Jase is in charge of the jelly distribution.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly what we need after hearing your whole jelly affliction today. You're the last person that should be giving
What gives one immediate access to the cupboard is, in fact, the ones on their hands and knees are over there in the water about knee deep. The mayhaws are falling in the water, swamp water. It's a swamp, little bitty apple that grows.
But Phil, all those people are over 70.
Most of them are old, but if you scratch around under the trees to get the berries and all, it's a workhouse.
Well, and we grew up doing it. So let me make one. I got to tell one more before we leave this topic because it was very touching. And people you can go to wfrchurch.org, by the way, and watch any of our stuff. The second song that came up right after Gordo was another song that I love. It's called Love One Another. It's a really pretty harmony song for acapella.
Yeah, so, can I clarify on that? That one was a little more difficult because the distance away,
right?
If you went Coles in California,
right,
it's impossible. There's a time delay.
Yeah, that's tough.
And so, I mean, look, it wasn't, because people watching say, well, that wasn't very good. It was hard to get.
It was very good.
I mean, it's good. But I'm saying it's like the timing is a little off, but that's all because of the time delay.
So here's what it looked like, though, Dad. You'll appreciate this because your grandkids. So Missy pops in first. You remember the song "Love One Another"?
Yeah.
Love one another. So she goes first, the alto, and then Cole pops in, singing the bass part. Love, that part, and then Reed pops in with the tenor part, the God Is Love part, and then Mia pops in for that last soprano part, and then they all sang together.
Pretty cool, Jason. I have all your kids singing.
It was really tough. I mean, of course, there's obviously it's my family. It was my niece and nephew.
Did you see the comments like, "Why isn't Jay singing?"
Yeah, they let
said,
you.
Hey, I'm leading this outfit. I'm what's the guy who does all this?
You're the band director.
Yeah.
You see him up there. I've always wanted to do that, even if I could fake it.
Plus, a man should not think of himself more highly than he ought.
Look, I sing.
That's a good text. Now, they're all singing. Let me kind of blend in there, make them think I'm part of this show.
I'll tell you this. I got this from Si, because I sing constantly in the grocery store. I sing in public, but I don't do it on purpose, because I know people are like, well, you can't sing, but I sing. And I got this from Si. It may not be good sounding to the ears, but it's entertaining.
Yeah. It's a joyful noise.
Make a joyful noise.
Because my kids laugh.
Yeah.
Every time.
Oh, yeah.
They come down, they're laughing.
But really, in our family, Missy, I guess she must be a daughter of Jubal.
Yep.
She's the only one that had a musical bent. Nobody else really does. I mean, we can all sing.
But it's weird how that translated to our kids.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The genetics of it are pretty amazing.
Because Reed just came. I mean, Reed can play 9 instruments, and he's had 0 lessons.
By the way, so the audience will know, we don't believe guitars will send anybody to hell and all this stuff. But we just say.
I don't think anybody's wondering that.
Yeah.
But
we're just saying, when you're singing a cappella and your family's singing a cappella, like Jase is talking about, a few people get together. It's just something about no frills, which I'm into. It's no beautiful. Frills.
I always get it from when Jesus, right
ours.
before he was went to the cross, and they were in the garden, and it says there's just a little phrase. It says he got with his disciples and sang a hymn. Yep. I just always viewed that as a special moment. I like a cappella music. Now, I would rather listen to guitars, and it's just better. But there's something cool. I think all our experiences at camp. When I was coming up trying to find my way like everybody else, there's just something cool about being with young people out on by a pond in the middle of the night, and somebody starts singing to God. And I've just had a lot of my high moments in my Christian life was gathered around some people spontaneously singing around a campfire.
There's something to it.
I'm telling you.
And it's interesting because if you don't, that's one of the reasons why we tried to keep the tradition of it, because it's the oldest. I mean, they were doing that,
That's
I
right.
mean, that's natural. But I had this conversation with Carly. She's my 14-year-old granddaughter. She and me are tight. And she was asking me about the parts, because what's happening is she's grown up so much just in contemporary Christian, she doesn't really get the acapella thing because we don't really teach it much anymore. And so she was asking me about the parts, and she said, "Well, the only time we've ever done it was at camp. They kind of put us in groups, and I was, she was trying to figure
weird
out
about perspective,
It is, and so hearing it from a young person was really interesting because we grew up learning it, just kind of because we were taught that way.
One of the first people I brought to the Lord when we were late teens, he's one of my good buddies. I remember he had lived such a hell-filled life that when he surrendered to Jesus. He was sincere. But when we went and met for the first time at the building, I remember while we sang, I was like, "Look, you can join in, And he said, I just can't. I'm opening my mouth, but it won't." He's like, "I'm just embarrassed." And I said, I think that's the transition from what you've been doing to now, which is being vulnerable and unselfish, and you're singing to God. I said, it may take a little time. But I forgot about that conversation. And a few weeks later, he caught me in a parking lot, and he said, "I sang for the first time today." Yeah. And he said, then I got teared up. I was like, well, that's a good thing. I said, because now you're starting to understand this ain't about you. Right. You need to be broken sometimes about our past and where we're at.
Well, you said that, Dad, when you first converted to came out of your worldly thing. It was hard to sing at first, just because
I couldn't sing a church song.
Yeah, it was just so foreign to
now
you.
that tells you right there that you're under the control. You were under the control of the evil one. You just think about it. Singing.
I was
fun.
looking at everybody else, and I'm thinking, and I looked down at and the words,
Yeah.
Jesus loves me. And I just said, I just couldn't sing.
This is exactly what
But
you
now
described.
you do.
Now I do.
Yeah.
So I think it's I like being in situations where people sing even though they can't. I mean, like someone like Missy, she's hearing how it sounds musically, and I have to help her understand that some people we get to sing, even on our teams and all, they don't have the greatest voice.
Right.
But I always tell her the same thing. I said, but I love their heart.
Yep.
And I think I've helped her with that.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I don't care how it sounds all the time. If you got people that love Jesus, and especially if they have a story, I was like, I want them singing.
It's the same thing about speaking, Jason. You and I learned how to do it the proper way. But when I hear somebody get up and they don't really have a ability, but their heart just pours through it. I mean, like they're doing a lot of things. If I were just going at it from the way you're supposed to present, a presentation, is all wrong. But the heart just,
it's like we have a guy we've mentioned many times on this podcast at our church who, the man, I don't hollers, screams. I don't know how to describe it. And at first it really bothered me because I thought this guy's a distraction. How am I going to confront this guy? But after a while, once I got to know him and realized his personality, and he's a real emotional person, and he, you know what? It's just kind of how it is. And the more I really studied before I confront him, there's way more about shouting in the Bible than there is singing. And I thought, you know what? We have a shouting section. And I invited him to be a part of our Holy Roar class. He can't sing, if he's listening. Sorry, brother. But I love your attempt, but he shouts well.
Oh, he does.
And so we've done a couple songs where I'm like...
And who's gotten mentioned more than him during the live stream? Every time
he usually just shouts Jesus, which is awesome, which is always right.
Let's take a quick break. So during the pandemic, I guess, Dad, your home is your safe haven, right? I mean, you haven't left home in how long? 2.5 months?
2.5 months.
Yeah. I mean, home's important.
Sure.
What would happen if someone stole your home? And I don't mean drive off with it if it had wheels.
Well, there'd be a big conflagration and a big fight.
And you wouldn't give it up easily, right?
Whoever said it was theirs,
yeah, but you wouldn't know.
I would say, I ain't moving.
This is virtual. They steal it online, so you wouldn't know it.
One of the fastest growing crimes, the FBI.
And you wonder why I'm a little bit dubious of high-tech gadgetry.
And look, it's a problem.
That's one of the reasons.
So most people's legal title is kept online. And so now, of course, people hack into systems and they can steal literally the title to your home. So there's a company called Home Title Lock that will basically put a barrier of protection around your information. So it's hometitlelock.com. You go there, you register your address, make sure you still own your home because you don't want to get in a fight like Dad's talking about. If you use the code PHIL, you get 30 days of free protection to help you through, if you have a problem. So 30 days free, hometitlelock.com, enter PHIL to get your savings and protect your home. So I guess we need to get to John 6.
Yes.
Because that's where we are. I thought it was interesting, Dad. There's a saying. I don't know if you said it or Mom said it, but I've always heard it growing up. If you feed them, they will come. Right?
That's Miss K's old line.
Well, think about how many special moments. I was talking about singing that you have over a meal. Even what we did for Mother's Day, we go out there, even though we forgot the jelly. I mean, we're all gathering up around the meal. Even our show that was on for years, even though most of the spiritual religious stuff was edited out of our personalities, they put that meal and that prayer, which became kind of the signature moment. People equated us with being people of faith for that one reason.
I've always wished that they would have run more of the spiritual things we said, but they cut them out.
Yeah.
I said, where are y'all from? They said, New York and San Francisco. I said, I get it.
I think it was L.A.
L.A.
Close enough.
Sam, yeah, L.A. and New York. I'm like, and y'all you don't want me to say in Jesus' name, amen? They're like, that's right.
Yeah.
So I gave my prayer one time. I said, Lord, I pray that you give these people time to repent before you burn them in hell for not using your son's name in a prayer.
You're trying to make a point with it.
Might have been
And I got done. I said, in his name I do pray. Amen. I looked up and the film crew were looking at me. They're like, Mr. Robertson, could you give us another prayer, maybe tone it down a little?
That's probably not going to make the cut. But in a way, it was kind of, it worked out, which God works everything out for his glory, but it worked out even better in the sense that I think it made people seek that part out more. It was because there was something about it and they weren't sure. I mean, it was a lot of funny stuff, a lot of goofy stuff, but there was something there was something emanating out of the show. That's where this podcast came from.
We had an effect on the producers and all.
Sure, yeah, and the world.
But you got to remember my philosophy.
I won the sound man over to God, old Burrs, one of them.
That was another show.
His deal was, how come I never hear any of y'all cuss? He said, I've been all over the world filming people. He said, not one cuss word. He said, I know you're doing it because I've got you mic'd up and I'm listening for a slip of the tongue. Somebody to use profanity, Mr. Robertson, in your family group. He said, I've never heard anybody use any profanity but us, the ones who are filming the show.
Yeah.
And he said, I've got you all mic'd up. Does anyone ever curse? Do they use? I said, no. He said, why? He said, because this is the most vile production crew I've ever been around. I said, I'll talk to you about that later on. Look, later on, I sat down with him and I explained to him Jesus, his death for his sins and his resurrection. The guy was converted because originally he was intrigued by not hearing cursing. And when I told him why, he was converted. And to this day, he still keeps in touch with me in between film shoots, and he's doing great.
It was weird, all those awkward conversations we had because they would, drop an F-bomb, then like, oh, I'm sorry. That happens so many times.
He said, I'm finding people, they're coming in here and they're telling us, don't be cursing around these people. They don't.
They really tried, but
they
you
did.
just can't.
Nah.
I was like, look.
Too much L.A. and too much New York City.
But what I was going to say is my philosophy, and I think maybe the reason that it happened the way it did is I think the key to finding Jesus is getting him out of a church building into real life. And even where we were just at in John 5, getting him out of the Bible where it's not a book, of rules.
Well,
and
fire it up, Jase. Get on John chapter 6 and elaborate.
Well, we're here. I love this. I mean, this is deemed a controversial chapter. People avoid this like the plague because later in John 6, when Jesus says this profound statement, 53, I'll tell you the truth, unless you eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink in his blood, you have
They're a
no
bunch
life.
of cannibals.
Well, right, because you hear these cool stories. He feeds the 5,000, which we'll get into. He walks on the water. Then he starts talking about, I'm the bread of life. Well, all of a sudden, you're like, no, this is cool. This is good. Oh, wait, this is getting weird. This is getting weird. Then he's like, unless you eat my flesh and drink my blood. And then they're like, okay, this is a cult.
Yeah.
Then they get into conversation about, the demons. And he's... So, but I don't really blame him. I mean, if I heard that today, I would probably be, because you know how we are. We're so skeptical, even about different denominations. I was going to say religions, but even different denominations around Jesus. You go visit somewhere, and you're kind of waiting for no, let me see. This is good, okay, and then you're like, I don't know about that now. And that's just kind of how human beings are wired.
Well,
you
you're
tend
right.
to think negatively about it.
You set the stage properly because it starts in verse 2, John 6:2. A great crowd of people followed him. So the question
Well,
is
wait
why?
a minute now. It actually starts in one where it says they crossed on the far shore
That's
of the
true.
Sea of Galilee. Look, where I've been, I was here. And so I saw this. And
Could you see the other bank?
Yes, I immediately thought of this story. No, it's way off. But it's like a big bowl with like a ridge, another ridge, another ridge. It's like the higher you go up, you just see more, but you can see the entire sea. And that's just about as far as you can see. And the ridge is in the background, but it's
So
like
it's
it
more
keeps-
like a giant lake.
Yeah, that's
It's
what
kind of what it felt like,
I mean,
right.
a giant lake. But you can see across on the other side.
Yeah, which is interesting. So this
Crazy.
the great crowd of people followed him because here's the reason why they saw the miraculous signs he had performed on the sick. So to your point, it's the crowds are big when stuff's going on and it looks like, man, this is exciting. And then by the time we get to the end of chapter 6, that crowd starts getting small again.
This is an ancient Woodstock event.
But he did clarify. He clarified, and I know I've read this in other podcasts, but I really like this. He clarified in verse 26 because he said, because they looked up and said, well, how'd you get here? Because that's why I think it's important for being there, because you can pretty much figure out how people got from point A to point B because you can see the whole Sea of Galilee, even though you're looking a few miles, I guess. And because in verse 25, he said when they found him on the other side of the lake,
Right.
they asked him, well, when'd you get here? Because you could pretty much have somebody watching in and out. I got on a boat and rode up one side and down the other. It took me all day. But so Jesus answered, I tell you the truth. And he kind of clarifies this. One, he says the miraculous signs, but he says, you're looking for me not because you saw miraculous signs, which seems to be in contrast to what he just said,
Right.
but because you ate the loaves and had your fill. It's even worse than we thought. I mean,
They're following the grub.
that food is good. This bread doesn't need jelly.
Yeah.
Which is why I wanted to tell that story. I told you, I said, I'm going to tell you a story because I knew where we were at. Because I, as good as that biscuit was, I thought, it needs the jelly or it's not complete.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't pull a Phil when I was about 12 and you were real early in your faith. And it was probably an embarrassing moment as you look back now. But Kay forgot one of the ingredients in the biscuits. And we were all, because we had to wait for Phil to go first, he gets the biscuits. He took one bite. And so then everybody else can join in. And he grabbed the pan, opened the door, threw it out in the yard.
I don't remember that.
Oh, I remember.
I knew that when I remember.
Because Kay was like, what happened?
That's
She
when
said,
my faith was a little weak.
well, yeah, I told you, we were
had to grow.
young.
He had to
It was.
Now I'm just taking it, well, I won't kill you. Let's eat it.
Yeah, you threw it out and was like, something ain't right. And she was like, well, I didn't have such and such ingredient, and I tried to just slip it by you.
Yeah.
You don't slip
He's
it by
like,
him.
no.
That's one of the poorest reflections on me I've heard lately.
I know, it was a
Threw the
sad-
biscuits out. How old was I? 30?
Well,
you
I
were
was
young.
probably 10 or 12. So,
You were young.
But I remember it. I thought, man, I would have eaten that biscuit despite the missing ingredient because I was hungry. but
These people are after the grub, which, with the old saying, Miss K's, if you feed them, they will come. There is something to be said about
Well,
that.
there's an application right here to all churches. People come for the blessings instead of the blessing giver.
That's right,
Yep.
which we've talked about before. Let's take a quick break.
Jase, you're doing good.
Well,
You wanna
I've
expound
said
on that?
I've said the same thing about the miracles 100 times, and look, I've gotten a few emails about it because they're like, so you don't believe in miracles? You've missed the entire point. So I'll say it again: having Jesus as your Lord and being on a friendly basis, as in He said, I will never leave you or forsake you. I will protect you. I know your name. I will be your shepherd. If you have Him who is capable of doing miracles, what do you actually need the miracles for? If He wants to give me one, great. But guess I have something greater than that miracle, which is the point He was trying to share here.
Well, and look, the reason you're right is because you look at verse 5, and I love this. Jesus never misses an opportunity to disciple and teach His disciples. Verse 5 says, Jesus looks up, so He sees this great crowd coming, like Jay said. You can imagine it coming around the deal to be there with Him. And He looks to Philip, and remember, Philip was one of the first disciples, and He says, where shall we buy bread for these people to eat? And then it said,
how are we going to feed this bunch?
feed this bunch? Well, and then he asked this to test him, for he already had in mind what he was going to do. So I love that about Jesus. He knew what he was about to do, but he nudged, he gave Philip a little nudge there. But look, Philip says 8 months' wages would not buy enough for everybody to have one bite. He's like, what are you talking about? You're crazy. But then look at Andrew, who was another one of the first ones. He says, and this is Peter's brother, here's a boy with 5 barley loaves and 2 small fish, but how far will that go among so many? But I like it because it shows he had a little bit of faith, like, well, here's some stuff, but I mean, it's almost like he's embarrassed, but at the same time,
I don't think it'll make it past the first row there.
That's exactly right.
Well, it's almost absurd.
Right.
Yeah. But here's the point, and just to go off what I was just saying, here's what people miss, what they missed, and here's what people I think in the church miss about these stories. If you go through the whole chapter and you pick out the supernatural powers that Jesus showed that they missed, and I'll give you an example. I'll give you a few examples. In verse 6, it says, He asked this only to test him. Here's the phrase, for He already had in mind what He was going to do. I mean, that's God's already, He has the plan. He knows what He's going to do. But if you would have got caught up in the question, He already knew, because He knows. He has the capabilities to know at different levels what's going to happen, what didn't happen, what should happen, what I'm going to do. So there's one. Here's another one. In verse 15, Jesus, knowing that they intended to come and make Him king by force, which I know we'll get into this later, withdrew again to a mountain by Himself. It's kind of hard to hem up a person who knows the future.
He's certainly not like any local politician because he says they want to make me king. I'm heading to the hills.
And he runs away from the crowd.
He gets you out of there.
That's exactly right.
And then in verse 19, when He actually walked on the water, and I didn't even read where He actually somehow made the bread and fish multiply without anybody really noticing
I think it's just appearing on the ground, and it just keeps. It's like a fast-growing plant.
And so then you do that. Then you get to 21, and that when He finally did get in the boat, there's a little small statement that says, "And immediately the boat reached the shore where they were heading."
I saw that.
You ever had that happen?
I saw that.
You're in one point.
It was like boop, it was over there.
Without your knowledge, boom, the boat moved, and you're there, and you don't really realize what just happened. What happened? We're here. I don't remember. It's foggy. All right, I've just picked out 4 things, and we hadn't even gone through the first. He knows what was going to happen. He knew what was going to happen. He's walking on water, which is not possible. He's multiplying food somehow. He's moving boats without your knowledge. Then he famously said in verse 35, when he said, I am the bread of life. How could you make a statement like that? I mean, just what? We've heard it so many times.
I think you'd make the answer was, look, I walked on water. I got the boat from one spot to another, and you didn't even know what happened. I got 5,000 people here. Grub going in every direction. Therefore, I'm the bread of life. What do you think?
Well, just think about if you had never read the Bible, because they didn't have one, I mean, the New Testament, and you didn't know about Jesus and all this, and we're down here on the river, and somebody, we're eating some bread and fish, and somebody says something to you and says, hey, Phil, I'm the bread of life.
Yeah.
What would you think if somebody made that kind of statement?
I would have, first thing I'd say is, whoa here. What?
Yeah, I know what you've done. You'd have grabbed your AR-15 over there and said,
what?
No, where are you from, boy?
Let's take one last break. So if you go to Matthew 14, which is another, eyewitness account.
Well, hold on before you read that, because I have one more, and then I was done with the chapter 6. The last one was in 64. It says, for Jesus had known from the beginning which of them did not believe and who would betray him, which he's talking about Judas.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to get that. Scary. I wanted to get that one little phrase about he's operating on a different level in every chapter we read when it comes to what we use sophisticated words, omniscience and omnipresent and all-powerful. That's what people were missing.
Maybe when I'm studying with people, and I've studied with many one of them through the years, I find myself saying in my mind, I hope this is one of them. I hope this is one of them. I'm referring to he knew from the beginning the ones who did not believe. I always think in my mind, Lord.
Yeah, well, we don't know. That's what's interesting. You have to treat everybody.
I know. Right. I just always am thinking, I hope this is one of them. I'm praying for him. Heaven.
Yeah. Well, Phil, I'm looking at it like God sent him here.
Yeah, well, me too.
Whether he responds or not, I think too. God knows, because that was another question we had sent in, and I really believe that. I think the question was, what happens to people who don't hear the gospel?
How many of you
I've heard that question millions of times. Well, that's why we're here.
Yeah, how many letters have we gotten? And I've just got a pile of them last week. Miss Kay shows me some of them. Y'all got to remember, way too many letters. But some of them she'll say, this is an interesting case right here. We get a few of the letters. Most of them go to North Carolina over there. They're looking at them. Right. But some of them, they say, it changed my life. I heard the story of Jesus, heard y'all on the podcast, changed my life.
That's probably
one guy said, man, there was filth coming out of my mouth. He's a country western singer.
My point is, here's what I'm trying.
He said, I quit cussing,
but look,
Phil.
If you realize that God's all-knowing, and Jesus illustrates, he's all-powerful, he's omnipresent, he's eternal, he's love, everlasting, all these qualities that God is that we're not. Then when somebody asks a question, well, what about the people who don't hear the gospel? Well, you just came up with something that is what happened? He's all powerful. He's all knowing. He knows all scenarios that could happen, whether they did or not. And now all of a sudden you're going to ask like some question that he can't do something.
That's right.
That's why we're here. Oh, he'll work it out. I got a whole book. He's feeding thousands of people with a couple of fish. I mean, he's gonna.
And by the way, this isn't his first rodeo. Remember, Jesus has been there all the way through. He was God, so he's always been there. So when manna came down out of heaven, and quail flew out, big quail feeds.
We need to get into that for our next podcast because we're about out of time. But I sabotaged. You were going to read Matthew.
Yeah, well, I was going to make the point that just sometimes when you try to imagine what it might look like, the Matthew account gives you a little better visual picture that Jesus is breaking this bread and passing it out, and the disciples are then passing it out through the people. And so as he's doing this, he just keeps passing. And so what started out as a finite, bread and fish is now going way beyond. And so look, as he's doing it, the 12 basketfuls that are picked up, it wasn't out amongst the folks. Trust me, they weren't just throwing food off.
This was like
side.
men coming and women coming out of dirt.
That's exactly right. And so after he gets finished, everybody eats. Then they come up and scoop up. Everything was just falling out
12
here.
baskets full.
12
I'm
baskets
interested
full.
in that process.
That's really
I'm
interesting.
wondering if they were noticing the process or it was
a lot of people, and he's probably up higher than they are. I don't even know that they knew, other than the food was flowing.
Well, it's like the boat being moved. I'm under the impression, even though it doesn't say it, that they didn't realize it. So
That's
the
what I
number was 5,000
men.
men.
And then there were also women and children.
Yeah, you're like-
so that number just tripled.
But if you had a crowd on the, I don't want to misspeak, but I'm pretty sure if you had a crowd on the Sea of Galilee that size, I think you could see it from around the whole. I think you could see it.
Maybe so. I don't know. I mean,
Which
I
would
hadn't
be
been there.
incredible.
Which would be
Yeah.
amazing.
I mean, just you're up there and all of a sudden this, I don't even know how to describe that, this endless supply of fish and bread is coming from doing this.
It just keeps coming. Feeding 10,000 plus people.
And then these idiots are saying, hey, you got some more? And they're missing the guy who has the ability to do it.
That's right. Which is what we'll
say
talk.
that idiot affectionately.
That's an affectionate idiot, which we all are. So we'll pick up here. There's a lot more to unpack in this next time. So we're so glad you guys were with us today. You can subscribe on iTunes or Spotify or YouTube or Facebook, and be sure and rate us on iTunes so that other people can know about the podcast.